She became the Empire's strongest knight, and 5 minutes later got zapped for shaking hands with an arrogant mage. A goddess said, "Fall in love, marry, have a baby, or the world ends." Problem: they hate each other. Now they're magically stuck together while bored gods watch. Day 1 of a divine baby deadline. Everyone was excitedly cheering for Leona from the Knights department. All were in admiration of the first woman who'd graduated as the first of her promotion in the Royal Knight Academy. When asked about how she felt as the first female swordswoman in the branch, Leona decided to reply with a smile. She decided to express her gratitude towards all of her supporters. This was none other than Leona Everhart, chief swordswoman of the Central Branch. This prestigious branch only accepts the greatest graduates of the academy. The Central Branch was known for being extremely exclusive, which is why Leona made history by being the first female knight to ever enter its ranks. This was undeniable proof of how powerful and skillful this armed maiden truly was. This powerful person seemed to enjoy the attention, claiming with a smile that she wouldn't fail to fulfill her duties. But just as she was admiring her own glory, Regan Crawford was mentioned. All attention suddenly went to him. At that moment, some suspicious-looking half-naked men stepped forward. They seemed to be fans of the so-called Regan Crawford, who was claimed to be a mage prodigy. This greatly annoyed the swordswoman, and at that moment, the awaited Regan Crawford, who was a master mage at the Central Branch, asked her to get out of his way. Leona was greatly annoyed by the presence of this man, as she would be forced to see him on a regular basis for her next mandatory 3 years of service. At that moment, the two clubs clashed with each other regarding Regan's path being blocked by Leona. And while the swordswoman desperately tried to calm down the fight centered around her, the mage found it rather tiresome. At that moment, a journalist demanded permission to take a photo of both of them shaking hands. Regan wanted to refuse, only to be quickly silenced by his colleague, who knew that the best way to deal with such situations was to roll with them. Regan and Leona then braced themselves to take the picture, but as soon as they touched hands, a small electric shock occurred. This startled both of them. The dimensional transmission system had been accessed. The operation was a success. This victory had been earned after 3 years of hardship. Leona was still intrigued by this sudden sensation she had felt. The knight was unable to explain the sudden electrocution, which left her in awe. At that moment, Regan quickly pulled his hand away. Both he and his colleague seemed shocked. Judging by his reaction, Leona immediately realized that he had felt the same sensation as her. But just as she was about to ask him about it, their names were called forward. Both Regan and Leona were requested by the commander. Shortly after, Miles, the commander, welcomed the two of them into the Central Branch that he commands. He claimed that it was soothing to see a handsome man next to a beauty, before pointing out how these two were rumored to be close back in their days at the academy. Both mage and swordswoman were disgusted, as they clarified that these rumors were false. Regan then asked their superior to cut straight to the chase, as this one began to recall his days in the Northern Branch with the many delicate maidens. And so, as Miles affirmed that he wanted to spare them the upcoming burdens, both of our heroes were confused. Only to be then shocked as the commander claimed that they would be partners from now on. Both were shocked as Miles claimed that this was the first mission where the branch collabs with the temple, and that the temple had honored Regan and Leona by picking them for it. Leona was greatly intrigued by this, as the temple had no reason to assign such an important mission to beginners. But upon learning that the crown would shorten their mandatory service by 2 years, she quickly changed her mind regarding the mission, only for her partner to refuse immediately, which made her affirm that she didn't want to work with him either. When asked about how rookies are usually assigned more experienced partners in the branch, Miles claimed that this was more of a custom than a formal procedure, so Regan affirmed that they should stick to it. Leona tried to point out the great reward that would await them, only for Regan to claim that it was expected from a dumb swordswoman to think this a good idea, despite their bad history in the academy. And as the lady was angered, Miles placed something on his desk. He had tasked them with taking this seal to the Holy See before nightfall, and with that he gave them a thumbs up that left our heroes cringing. Later that day, while on their way to the Holy See, Leona was annoyed by her partner, who had picked up the slow carriage over the fast horses in order to read. Yet, it wouldn't be proper for Leona to get separated from the mage at the very start of their journey together. She then turned his gaze towards the book in Regan's hand, and after reading the title, our girl was left quite intrigued, as it contained the term dimensional. This reminded her of the mysterious voice she and the mage had heard at the start of the day. At that moment, Leona decided to ask Regan if he had heard the voice as well. Yet the mage quickly shushed her in order to focus on his book, leaving his partner quite irritated. Suddenly, the carriage began to shake, and before Leona could even realize what was happening, she realized that Regan was on top of her. Despite the moving vehicle making her nauseous, Leona was captivated by the sweet smell that filled the carriage. And in that moment, as both grasped the position they were in, Regan quickly backed away, apologizing and completely embarrassed. He then began to think about the sweet smell filling his lungs, coming from the girl who didn't wear perfume. Leona used this opportunity to tease the mage about his feeble body that lacked training. Regan claimed that he had always taken physical training very seriously. Suddenly, both of them heard a voice expressing how disappointed it was that the scent of love hadn't worked. This time there was no room for denying it. Thus, both of our heroes pulled out their weapons and braced themselves for battle. Regan decided to reveal the position of the outsider so that his partner could charge at it. Yet, as he used his spell to cancel all invisibility, a rather odd form revealed itself, leaving both the mage and the swordswoman intrigued. The small fairy whose cover was blown was quite scared. Leona and Regan were both confused by this strange creature. After a short moment of silence, the two of them labeled the little creature as a new magic species that they discovered and agreed to split the fame and glory that it would get them. Just like that, to the little creature's misfortune, the mage and the swordswoman finally found common ground. After being captured, the tiny creature affirmed that she was chief god Sylphian, which greatly intrigued the humans. In their eyes, this creature didn't seem divine at all. To understand how a goddess ended up as a cute chibi, one has to go half a millennium into the past. During this era of holy war, the goddess went into a coma after using all her energy in order to seal the demon lord, forcing her to use avatars. This explanation seemed rational to Regan, who understood that this was the avatar of the goddess Sylphin. Yet seeing how her full name was hard to pronounce, the avatar asked to be referred to as Angel. Angel then revealed that she had to fulfill a task given to her by her true form, which was to ensure the safety of the one who would save the world. After hearing this, Leona got excited, thinking that she must be the hero in question. But just as he revealed how happy she was to become like the heroes from the stories of her childhood, Angel revealed that she wasn't the chosen one. This left Leona frightened, as it must mean that the hero in question was the selfish Regan who likes to make sneaky plots. So the mage decided to clarify that he won't use his hero title to become an evil dictator. But Angel revealed that he wasn't the chosen one as well. According to the avatar, the hero still hadn't been born. Angel then screamed that the chosen one was Leona and Regan's future child. Upon hearing this, both future parents had a hard time believing this. Angel then explained that it took her 3 years to finally succeed in uniting them. This greatly angered Leona, as this meant that every unfortunate encounter she had with the mage was no coincidence, like the time she suddenly tripped at the entrance ceremony. There was also that one incident where her hair caught on fire after walking into one of Regan's experiments. She also couldn't forget how they had fought each other during the cultural festival. Regan affirmed that he had his fair share of hardships too, like that time she had soaked him in water before his speech. And as she brought up the fight at the cultural festival, he recalled how she had given him bruises that lasted 2 weeks. And so upon recalling the past, the mage and the swordswoman began to argue once again, only to be interrupted by Angel crying. The little creature claimed herself to be an idiot that brought shame to the real body. With that, after finishing her mental breakdown, she decided to shake off the matter in front of the humans. Leona then asked Angel what she expected from both of them, so this one revealed how she wanted them to make the fated baby. The knight couldn't be more annoyed, as on top of pregnancy surely becoming a burden for her duties, the child she had to carry would be Regan's. Even so, she knew that the safety of the world was a top priority. In that moment, Leona gave up her body in order to birth the fated child that shall save the world. And so, she turned to the mage and asked him if he wanted to just get over it. Only then did she realize how awkward she must have sounded. Regan sighed and angrily claimed that he wasn't a knight with no values like her, leaving her baffled as she affirmed that she had a hard time saying those words. So the mage decided to clarify that she was confusing hardships with shamelessness, as Leona claimed that she was only stating the obvious. Angel decided to clarify that in order to save the world, they needed to fall in love with each other before having the baby. And while Leona was irritated by Regan, he asked the avatar about the nature of this world-ending threat. Angel's expression became gloomy as she revealed that the threat in question was the defeated Demon King, which shocked Leona and Regan. Angel could only appear if the seal of the Demon King began to lose power. The huge spawning rate of the magic beasts that seek and destroy by nature and that multiply the negative emotions was a sign that the Demon Lord is regaining his strength. The purpose of those monsters was to extract enough human malice in order to finally unshackle their master. Upon hearing this, the mage deduced that they could avoid the prophecy of the hero by dealing with the Demon King themselves. And while the swordswoman found this to be brilliant, Angel was shocked. Regan revealed that despite the fact that he can't see himself in a relationship, he wouldn't want to force a child to save the world if he ever fathers one. Leona agreed with Regan that taking down an all-powerful being would be more effective than taking the romantic route. She then got fired up as Angel claimed this to be possible. But as the avatar claimed that making the hero would be the easiest way, Regan clarified that if that is what Angel wants, then they'll just continue on like before. If it took our heroes 3 years to shake hands, it would take them an eternity to fall in love. Thus, our heroes decided to keep the prophesied child as a last resort if anything else fails. They even decided to make a pact to never fall for each other. And just like that, the plan of Angel took an unexpected twist. In the end, Angel left after claiming that she would get serious on the now adult targets by initiating the dimensional stream, which left them horrified as they didn't know what it meant. Once at the temple, our heroes were informed that Nathaniel would join them shortly after finishing his prayers. As Regan pointed out that he didn't expect Nathaniel to become so important, Leona asked him if he was acquainted with the man. The mage affirmed that he was mentioned during the chapel lectures, yet the knight had never taken those seriously. Nathaniel is famous for being the youngest man ever to become a high priest and is even rumored to be the next pope. At that moment, the lady recognized the man as Sylphin's gift, who was renowned for his incredibly handsome face, which shocked Regan, seeing how Leona only knew about Nathaniel's appearance. So the girl claimed that his reputation preceded him and expressed her desire to get his autograph. At that moment, the mage suddenly got angry. He was annoyed by the excited expression of his partner. The mage was filled with a weird feeling upon seeing how Leona was reacting to a man she had never met, while never having treated him to a smile. At that moment, he came to meet them. This handsome man was the high priest Nathaniel, who was a candidate to become pope. Leona rushed to greet the high priest. As Nathaniel and Leona each claimed that it was an honor for them to finally meet the other, Regan was left quite annoyed. Yet he decided to retain his composure. And so, as the knight and the priest seemed to be immersed in their conversation, he pushed his partner away and introduced himself to Nathaniel, who claimed that the great magical researches of this one are worthy of respect. As Regan replied with a simple, "Thanks," which made Leona urge him to show the high priest some respect. Regan clarified that Leona was the rude one between them, seeing how quickly she rushed to smack him in the shoulder. He then decided to trigger her even further by claiming that she would giggle helplessly in battle if her opponent was handsome enough. The smiling Nathaniel desperately tried to calm them down. But just as the swordswoman was about to put all of the blame on the mage, she noticed something intriguing happening. A window where someone called side character commented on the handsome high priest suddenly appeared. This shocked Leona. Regan assumed this window to be some sort of projection. Yet upon seeing how confused Nathaniel seemed about their behavior, our heroes realized that this window was only visible to them. The swordswoman quickly guessed that Angel must be responsible for this. Thus, she decided to act quickly by grabbing Regan by the hand. This one was startled by this sudden action. With that being said, Leona asked the confused Nathaniel to grant them a moment to talk. In the middle of the temple, while holding hands and running as fast as possible, our heroes felt quite embarrassed as more and more silly windows appeared. While commenting on Run, the mage and the knight were finally alone. Both Leona and Regan were confused, as it seemed like they were witnessing some kind of dialogue between the windows. And so, as more and more silly comments regarding their relationship appeared, Leona screamed to Angel to come forth as Regan affirmed that the avatar wouldn't respond to a simple scream, only to be proven wrong shortly after. Leona Demand revealed that she had initiated a dimensional stream but didn't expect it to become so popular. The mage urged her to explain the concept of this stream. Thus, Angel revealed that it was a system that would allow constellations from other realms to watch her channel. Yet seeing how a silent stream would be boring, Angel decided to open the comment section. The eyes of otherworldly beings were now upon our heroes. After hearing this, Regan asked the avatar if she was referring to divinities from other realms as constellations. Angel confirmed that she now had powerful gods rallying her cause, yet Leona and Regan could only focus on the ridiculous nicknames popping up. Regan was annoyed as they now had to deal with the avatar as well as the constellation, so Angel affirmed that she was placing 3 years of effort into this stream. The mage proposed to return to Nathaniel, but upon seeing his partner growing fond of the Watchers for calling her adorable, he began to realize that he was the only person here with a functioning brain. In the end, Leona decided to tolerate the viewers as it seemed impossible for them to harm her or her partner. Shortly after, our heroes apologized for the inconvenience. Nathaniel clarified that no harm was done as he had also received an unexpected revelation that took him to the prayer chamber. The high priest then explained that the divine quest of our heroes had been unveiled to him while praying and offered any assistance that was in his power. Nathaniel affirmed that they were now facing an immense threat, as the enemy in question was believed to be a fable in the old texts. Leona affirmed that they shall slay the threat at once. According to her, going up against an all-powerful being was far more merciful than their second option. Nathaniel claimed that the two of them were very heroic for putting their lives on the line for the sake of the world, leaving Leona feeling flattered. Regan urged his partner to call him if she found any monsters before announcing his exit. Yet the high priest urged him to be patient as he was in possession of an item that might be of assistance on their quest. The swordswoman had no idea why the mage seemed so pissed off and was worried she might make a mistake that would drive a wedge between them. At that moment, the constellations, who grew tired of the silence, decided to make a light intervention, which intrigued Leona. He realized that most of their viewers were insane, seeing how they wanted to stick them in a weird position instead of just gluing their hands together, as one of them even proposed a vote. Leona became worried that this guy was the only one speaking in the chat. Shortly after, the votes went in favor of the hand stuck option. And just like that, what was labeled as a divine will had been predicted. The mage noticed that the swordswoman was acting weirdly. Seeing this one claimed that the viewers were acting weirdly, so he urged her to tone it down a little in order to keep them out of trouble. Unable to know what the voting meant, Leona began to fear the worst. Suddenly, someone screamed at Ruby. Just like that, a little creature slammed itself into the female heroine and blasted her towards her partner. Before this one could even realize what was happening, his hand began to move on its own. And just like that, both of our heroes fell to the ground. The priest immediately went to check on them as they affirmed that no harm was done. But as the swordswoman stood up, she realized that she was holding someone's hand. Both of our heroes were left baffled upon realizing the position they were in. Nathaniel deeply apologized for the inconvenience while the disgusted Leona and Regan demanded an explanation. And so, according to the handsome priest, their situation was due to the power of the divine beast Ruby that makes two people stick to each other after touching them, which our heroes found very suspicious. Nathaniel then explained that the beast suddenly spawned out of nowhere as he went to fetch the required item. Leona and Regan grew more and more annoyed as it was revealed to them that the divine beasts of Sylphian, like Ruby. With that, Angel apologized to the two of them, claiming that their only option was to endure this situation for an entire day. And as the comments expressing admiration for the channel kept on flowing, the exhausted avatar decided to stop for today. And just like that, Angel bid the mage and the swordswoman farewell before leaving them alone. Leona and Regan were now in a situation that they couldn't stand shortly after. Inside the carriage, the bonded Leona and Regan felt utterly devastated. As Regan urged Leona to give him some space, she jokingly offered to wait outside the vehicle, which the mage immediately welcomed. Leona was greatly annoyed by this. Suddenly, she noticed something alarming. Leona then stated to her partner that she wanted to go outside, and as this one explained that he was joking, the girl was forced to turn his attention towards what she saw. A conflict seemed to be happening outside. A thug was trying to rebel against the authorities, and due to the flames of his blazing sword, the guards found themselves unable to approach the criminal. Regan was truly having a bad day, seeing how they had stumbled upon a rogue Aether user. Aether designates great powers that go beyond human abilities, which is why its users are always surveilled by the authorities. Yet, a good portion of the Aether users opted to use their great gifts in order to turn to a life of crime. At that moment, Leona urged Regan to stop explaining the obvious, as they needed to act at once. Yet Regan quickly stopped her. He affirmed that they couldn't possibly show themselves to the people while holding hands. Leona felt disgusted by the man who favors looks over his duty, and claimed that she would cut her own arm and go alone if he refused to tag along. The mage felt annoyed by the impatience of the muscle-brained swordswoman, and thus, with a simple move of his hand, he began to resort to his magic. And just like that, Regan cast a freeze solid breath upon the flaming thug. And just like that, the man was successfully caught in the spell. He began to scream in pain as he couldn't move inside the frozen ice. Leona didn't expect this outcome. Regan then decided to cast the rest of his spell. And just like that, the rogue Aether user was successfully neutralized. Regan called this suppression from a distance. He claimed his fighting style to be impeccable, as he neutralized the enemy before he could be approached. This was the main purpose of Regan's wizardry. This greatly annoyed Leona, as the mage was mocking the knights who fought mostly at close range. But just as she began to think of where she should hit the mage, the lady noticed an odd figure in the crowd, and upon seeing that this individual had a revolver, Leona realized that they were in quite the pickle. With that, she rushed to get her partner on the floor. Not 1 second later, a projectile penetrated the carriage. Yet our heroes were safe and sound as they had reacted just in time. After taking a good look at the projectile, Regan was surprised to see that it was a magic bullet. Leona pointed out that the gun carrier was the real attacker, while the flames from before were just a mere decoy. With that, she decided to chase the attacker before he could flee. But seeing how she was stuck with the mage, she decided to resort to another way. Leona then urged Regan to stand still, and as the lady pulled out her own strap while on top of her partner, this one was suddenly left frustrated. Leona then aimed the gun very well before taking the shot that took down the attacker. The lady then blew away the smoke coming from her weapon before affirming to the mage that knights also possessed the means to fight from a distance. Later on, while still holding hands, our heroes began to fight about who was having the toughest day. Leona then decided to announce something to Regan. As she let him know that she wanted to grab a bite, the mage urged her to endure hunger until the end of the spell. And as the lady claimed that she was still running on her breakfast, Regan was rather annoyed. Leona then pointed out how challenging it will be to change their clothes upon noticing the dirt on Regan's uniform. So the mage, who wanted to get more comfy attire, explained that they can cut their sleeves to free themselves from the uniform, as he can restore it with magic. Regan was then left startled as the lady began to unbutton her shirt. He quickly turned around and let her change first, while the lady claimed that it would be hard to do so with one hand. A little later, as Leona finished unbuttoning her top, Regan began to panic after hearing her struggling sounds while she changed. And as soon as the lady mentioned that she had to change her underwear, the mage became horrified. Regan then immediately jumped out of his seat in order to face the other way. Regan screamed at the girl for daring to utter a shameless word like underwear in the presence of a man, which irritated Leona, as he was acting as if he had seen her naked. After hearing this, Regan's imagination began to go wild as he urged his partner to mind her tongue. Leona was shocked to see that Regan considers her a lady, seeing how she couldn't see him as more than an annoying mage. She wanted to ask him if he had ever been with a woman before, only to realize that it would be rude of her. Yet the face that Regan was making made the answer pretty obvious. Meanwhile, the blushing male Sunder was doing his best to contain his panic. This was the first time Regan was alone with a lady other than his nanny. He began to think that Leona must be stupid, seeing how calm she was while stripping next to him. Regan then began to recall the recent incident where Leona was on top of him. He couldn't help but think about her smile, yet this wasn't the only thing he was focusing on. Only then did he realize what was going through his mind. Regan realized that he shouldn't recall such things and that he should repay the lady for saving his life like a proper gentleman. But as soon as he addressed the lady, this one warned him to stop making things more difficult for both of them. Yet Regan clarified that he only wished to thank her for saving his life, and even offered to buy her something shiny as a token of his gratitude, regardless of the price. Despite being intrigued by this turn of events, Leona claimed that she would like to have the SS rank-throwing dagger set known as Roar of the Underworld Dragon from the Sacred Land. Yet seeing how he didn't know about it, she urged him to send the future bill of the store to his family. Shortly after, both of our heroes were almost done changing. But as soon as they looked at each other's outfits, Leona and Regan were quite intrigued. The swordswoman criticized the mage for posing like a star, while this one called her out for dressing like a peasant. Leona claimed that even royals wouldn't dare to dress up like her partner. Regan called her out for using this old outfit as a pajama, only for her to reveal that she had worn it in order to train tonight. Regan claimed that training was out of the question, as a mage needs a lot of sleep in order to keep his mind sharp for magic. Later on, the mage was still annoyed by the fact that he had lost the argument. Regan began to petty his misery while Leona was fully focused on her training. He explained that he was eager to go to bed, only for the swordswoman to clarify that she needs to keep on practicing until the world is saved. Seeing this, Regan decided to distract himself with a lecture, yet was unable to focus on his book. The mage then realized that it was his first time witnessing a knight practicing from up close. Thus, he began to quietly observe every detail in front of him. Regan realized that his presence had vanished for the lady, who was absorbed by her training that seemed entertaining. He noticed the powerful and sturdy stance of the lower body, as well as the steady swing of the blade from a well-balanced body. The mage was also captivated by the concentration of the swordswoman, as well as the red aura coming from Leona that matched its owner. Regan couldn't help but find the spectacle breathtaking. And thus, in a surge of reason, he slapped himself with his own book. He was horrified to see his mind wander into Leona's beauty as the one who had just finished his training asked him why he had hit himself. Regan claimed that there was an insect on him, and as Leona asked him if he wanted to go to their room, someone suddenly called her out on her words. The man then pointed out how the mage and the swordswoman were holding hands, and while Regan felt alerted by the dark look in the eyes of the man, this one rushed to greet his junior knight, leaving him completely baffled. As this one claimed that he was happy to see Leona upon returning to the headquarters, this one claimed that he was still the same. Regan then began to wonder about the identity of the man as Leona asked him about his long mission. The male knight revealed that he did his best to wrap up his mission in one day in order to arrive in time for the first mission of his junior, before deciding to address the elephant in the room. The senior knight asked Leona about the man who was holding her hand. Nathan Starlight, who was a second year in the same division as Leona, called her out on getting herself a lover in his absence, and so the atmosphere got pretty tense. Regan realized that Nathan must be feeling a lot of pain after being tapped by Leona, who was urging him to stop joking, seeing how he had tasted her strength firsthand. With that, the lady introduced the two gentlemen to each other while explaining to Regan that Nathaniel was the student representative while they were still freshmen. Yet the mage couldn't recall a representative of the knights. When asked for the reason she was holding hands with Regan, Leona explained that they were stuck together for an entire day due to an unexpected twist during their mission. Hearing this, Nathan decided to immediately cut off the arm of Regan while Leona clarified that her senior was joking. With that being said, the swordswoman went with the mage in order to practice elsewhere, leaving Mathan devastated. She then quietly explained to her partner that Nathan was simple-minded but had a good heart, while Regan found him to be a complete idiot. Shortly after, in a training area for knights, Regan had no choice but to agree to stand there while Leona resumed her training. He then began to wonder about the nature of Leona and Nathan's relationship. Regan began to think of how much of a moron Nathan was for staring at him with jealous eyes, yet still found him to be too much of a catch to be interested in Leona. According to him, no man should be attracted to the gross bodybuilder who was his partner. Then again, the mage began to think that there was more to the lady than it seemed. Regan claimed her to be slightly less handsome than him while being one of the few redheads in the Empire. He also began to admire the details of her face, such as her elegant eyebrows and ruby-like eyes, as well as the delicate marriage between her pale skin and crimson hair. Regan then began to admire the sweat on Leona's face. But as he began to fall for her natural body scent, the mage realized that something was seriously wrong with him, as he refused to believe that these were his free thoughts. Regan quickly began to blame divine beings for these emotions. Suddenly, he began to scream at Angel to show herself and cease her stupid tricks, which caught Leona by surprise. These screams were only responded to with complete silence. Regan was unable to believe what was happening as Angel was truly absent, and thus Leona was left quite intrigued as her partner suddenly began to scream after realizing the nature of his emotions. A little later, Leona, who had finished practicing, claimed that they could go home, but seeing how Regan seemed absent-minded, she decided to tap him on the shoulder. Suddenly, this one tried to back away. The embarrassed mage claimed that he might be suffering from some sort of magic syndrome. Thus, he urged Leona to refrain from touching him, making him seem even weirder in her eyes as she demanded to go hit the showers. The male Sunder was startled by this idea, as Leona explained that she would just reach into the tub and make it quick. Regan firmly affirmed that a shower was out of the question, while Leona tried to argue that he would have to endure her sweat scent and wet body all night long. At that moment, Regan began to picture the horror that Leona was describing. The swordswoman noticed that the mage was acting oddly. Only then did Regan begin to bleed from the nose as he demanded his arm be torn off. Just like that, Leona was forced to clean herself with a magic tool that wasn't meant for humans, while her partner vowed to create a body, cleaning magic that wouldn't require one to disrobe. And just like that, our heroes were finally clean after a long and tiring day. Leona asked Regan if he wanted to go to bed, only for him to refuse, claiming that he would rather stay awake. But as she pointed out how sleep is supposed to be crucial for magic, Leona noticed something intriguing. It was the first time she had noticed that Regan had blue eyes, as she began to admire them deeply. The mage was shocked to see that this was his partner's first time noticing them. Leona revealed that she had never observed Regan from such a close distance and that she had always imagined his eyes to be of a different color. It was the first time that Leona noticed that the eyes of Regan resembled an azure jewel, a celestial satellite, or even a calm body of water. After hearing this, the embarrassed Regan urged the lady to have her eyes checked. He was annoyed by the fact that he could remember Leona's red eyes perfectly and tried to convince himself that the reason was their unusual crimson color, even though deep down, he knew very well the reason the eyes of Leona were engraved in his memory. The mage was then snapped back to reality and shocked by the snoring sound of Leona, who was able to fall asleep while on a chair. He was baffled to see her sleeping so carelessly while alone with someone as perfect as him. Thus, the blushing man began to wonder about his next move. As the next day dawned, Miles was left quite intrigued. Seeing how Leona and Regan were still stuck together, the commander stated that they could come back after resolving the issue. Leona then asked the commander if they needed her partner out of the room, seeing how he summoned her alone. So the commander revealed that the matter concerned her personally. Hearing this, Leona claimed that she had nothing to hide, so Miles revealed how this had to do with the latest member of the Central Branch. According to Miles, this man was a childhood friend of Leona and a top graduate from the Spirit Academy. But as Leona stated that she didn't know anyone who matched this description, Regan was left quite surprised. Even the commander was left startled as he began to wonder about their new recruit. And after hearing this, a dark aura began to envelop Leona. This made Regan calmly try to analyze the situation, while Miles didn't know what to say. Seeing how most necromancers and spirit users were aristocrats, he quickly deduced that the new recruit must come from an important house based on the expression of the commander. This made the mage speculate that his partner shared some kind of bond with the new recruit, who must be a noble. Miles explained that he wanted to know Leona's opinion before everything, and even offered to transfer her to a different branch. The swordswoman affirmed that she couldn't care less about the new recruit and stated that the commander was free to do as he pleased. She then pointed out that he should be planning on transferring the new recruit instead of her, as it would be more ethical. And so, as the anger of the swordswoman was about to incinerate him, Miles decided to divert her attention towards another business matter. The commander revealed that after interrogation, the two criminals that our heroes had captured yesterday had no memories of their crimes and could only recall being on Galar Island. The commander then explained that yesterday evening, the same island witnessed the disappearance of a worker. Thus, due to those incidents, the Central Branch would be handling the case instead of the district team. Miles then revealed that he would prepare a portal for our heroes, who should head to the island as soon as their curse is dismantled. The excited Leona claimed that they could go right away as they would surely be freed from each other on the way. Regan agreed with her, seeing how the schedule of the ships was rather hazardous. Later on, as the portal was finally ready, our angered heroes clarified the misunderstanding to the lady, who noticed their situation, as she explained that this gate would transfer them to the closest point to the island, Mavados City. Leona began to drool, as Mavados was reputed for its seafood, and as Regan reminded her that they were going on a mission, she claimed that she was hungry. Regan criticized his partner for being way too distracted while on a mission, so this one stated that he should be less tense. And with that being said, our heroes decided to check the schedule of the boats. Seeing how food vendors and restaurants were everywhere, Leona rushed to taste the delicious food. Only then did the mage stop her. Regan criticized Leona for focusing on her stomach rather than the mission, so she affirmed that she was starving. Seeing this, a restaurant owner asked Regan to treat his girlfriend to the couple set at their establishment, only for him to affirm that she misunderstood the situation, and just like that, the mage took the swordswoman and left the scene. A little later, Leona proposed to go grab a bite, seeing how there was still some time before the arrival of the boat, yet Regan urged her to wait. And just as the lady was about to demand an explanation, she noticed something intriguing. The spell of the divine beast had finally come to an end. Leona found it rather irritating that the mage was counting the seconds until the end of the spell. With that, Leona suggested they go try the couple set mentioned earlier, yet Regan stated that they should each eat alone before the arrival of the boat. According to the mage, his most recent experience with Leona didn't exactly strengthen their thin bond, and thus, they had no reason to eat together. This greatly upset Leona. She then called out the rude mage for being so forward, yet this one couldn't care less as he bid her farewell. At that moment, the lady was devastated as without him, she couldn't possibly order the couple's set. Yet a few minutes later, Leona's grin turned into a wide smile. The fact that she came in alone didn't prevent her from stuffing her face with the couple's set. Only then did someone call her attention. This was none other than a little girl trying to give her an item. The swordswoman asked the little merchant if she was truly talking to her. The girl explained that this object was a charm that brings good fortune. When asked if she was the one who made it, the little girl explained that she simply picked up the leaves and that it was her grandmother, who predicted that a redhead would come by who crafted it. Leona then asked the girl if her grandmother had mentioned anything else. Leona decided to purchase the good luck charm as the girl revealed that the old lady had asked her to sell this item to the redhead only. Yet as the little one revealed that this charm would also shield her from the grasp of evil men, the lady was left quite shocked. Leon asked the innocent little girl if she fully grasped the meaning of those words, only for this one to claim that she was just following the orders of her grandma. And when asked about her grandmother, the little girl explained that she goes absent from time to time. Despite knowing that this was but superstition, Leona decided to buy all of her charms to satisfy her anxiety and potentially shield her chastity from the constellations. Yet as the little girl claimed that she was only allowed to take this single charm, she explained that she knew a prick who might face the same problem as her. The prick in question was none other than the handsome mage. Leona then claimed that she needed to bring her friend here at once and urged the little girl to wait for her return. And just like that, the little merchant bid the lady farewell as her cards remained hidden face down. Leona began to run throughout the city while wondering about the whereabouts of the mage that she needed to find at once. Suddenly, she heard some voices expressing admiration towards a handsome man. The people even commented on the expensive and rare watch that he was wearing. And while everyone was admiring the elegant and handsome mage, Leona found their attraction towards Regan to be ridiculous. Only then did she grab him by the arm and urge him to move at once. The startled Regan asked his partner if she had found a clue regarding the case. Yet Leona affirmed that they were short on time and that they needed to protect their private parts, leaving Regan utterly confused. Later on, both of your heroes were left quite confused, as the little girl was nowhere to be seen. Thus, as Regan screamed at Leona for dragging him here for no reason, she decided to ask a lady passing by about the little merchant. Yet to her shock, the woman claimed that this spot had been empty all day. Surprise quickly turned to horror as Leona learned that no one had set foot here since the death of the granny who lived here. A little later, a huge boat was sailing on the wide blue sea. Leona was amazed by how huge the ship was, yet doubted that it would be big enough for what awaited on the island. Regan left her quite angry as he pointed out that she should have shown more focus during their geography lessons. According to the mage, Galar Island was home to almost 50 people who were all miners who had just begun using magic tools and could easily ensure their survival by mining a small amount of the rare mineral in their soil. With that, Leona began to wonder about the reason the Demon King would send his forces to such a small island. She even claimed that the statue of the goddess must be crying blood, so Regan urged his partner not to jump to hasty conclusions before even landing on the island. And as the wind gently blew her hair, she expressed her worry about encountering monsters there. Upon seeing this beautiful spectacle, Regan had no choice but to try and hide his blush. Suddenly, our heroes heard someone yelling at an unwanted passenger. The scrawny man who illegally got on the ship begged the crewmate not to throw them on Galar Island. Only then did the mage and the swordswoman arrive to check the commotion. At that moment, the scrawny man began to scream that Galar Island was a cursed place and begged not to be dropped there. Seeing this, our heroes, who were heading there to run an investigation, urged the man to calm down before telling them what happened. Thus, it was revealed to them how Galar Island had been invaded by magical beasts and that they had already slaughtered the majority of the locals. The man explained that he and his friend Jake rushed to the dock in order to flee the beasts. Despite Jake suffering a grave injury while fleeing, the two of them managed to reach the ship only to faint afterwards. Upon waking up, the man was shocked to see that the ship was returning to the island. This explanation shocked both of our heroes. The calculated mage realized that they might be sailing to their death if the island inhabitants had been wiped out and suggested going back in order to call in reinforcements. Yet the kind-hearted swordswoman affirmed that they should go to Galar at once, as there might be some survivors there desperately praying for help. And just like that, they began to bicker among each other once again, as each criticized the other on their way of thinking. Only then did the swordswoman and mage realize that they were still in public. Leona then revealed to the man that they would save them no matter the cost, leaving him deeply thankful. Only then did she realize something horrifying, as the man was secretly smiling. Suddenly, Jake, who was supposedly unconscious on the ground, decided to unleash his magic. Regan was quickly startled by this, so he immediately resorted to a shielding spell, allowing him to protect his partner from harm. The two men began to speak in synch as they praised the mage for his quick thinking. Angel then spawned while alerting our heroes that their opponents were followers of the Demon King. Most of the comments expressed how unexpected it was to see magical beasts in human form, while a specific one claimed that he wanted something other than a battle. Angel explained that magical beasts were greatly influenced by human emotions, seeing how they feed on the negative ones. For this reason, these beasts gain in power as the surrounding quantity of rage increases. Our heroes were left intrigued as Angel claimed that she was unable to recall anything else. Leona was quite shocked as the Avatar, who was only around for 3 years, revealed that this was her first time stumbling upon magical beasts. Regan urged her to stay calm as they had more urgent matters to attend to. The monsters then began to taunt the humans. Seeing how the hot-headed Leona seemed to be falling for it, Angel rushed to calm her down while reminding the lady that rage fuels the monsters. The magical beasts claim that, as minions of the Demon King, they feed on the most abundant and powerful human emotion of all. But as the emotion in question was revealed to be shame, our heroes were shocked as Leona claimed that anger was still the stronger emotion. This comment quickly got on the nerves of the magical beasts. And just like that, they began to shake the ship with their powerful currents. The knight and the mage had a hard time staying on their feet. Only then did they notice something that would worsen their situation. Upon seeing a giant wave rise up, our heroes were left quite horrified. Leona urged the crew members to get to safety, and just like that, she was hit by the wave. For some reason, Leona was perfectly dry, which even confused the constellations. The girl then turned to her partner in order to check on him, and while the viewers enjoyed the show, Regan was left annoyed by the fact that he was soaking wet. Leona then laughed at him while claiming that he should have focused more on his training, while this one was irritated by the fact that he was the only one hit. The magical beast then called out Regan for getting upset after being the only one wet. According to them, his shame was quite delectable, and just like that, a powerful attack was unleashed. Despite both of our heroes bracing themselves for the worst, Regan quickly deployed his magic, as he was being treated like the main target, while Leona urged him to calm down. At that moment, Regan failed to parry one of the incoming blows and fell to the ground, which left his partner horrified. Leona found it rather odd that the magical beasts were only focused on Regan while she was still unharmed. Only then did she recall the charm that should shield her from evil men, which was given to her by the little girl. And so, as the swordswoman pulled out the item while wondering if this was the reason she was still safe, the monsters were disgusted by its scent. Leona was thrilled to see that the magical beasts were repulsed by the flower inside the charm. Thus, the magical beast decided to launch yet another attack. Leona began to proudly brag that her charm keeps her safe from their powers. Only then did she realize that her partner didn't have this kind of blessing. And so, as he got blasted by water yet again, Regan began to curse his partner, who didn't bother protecting him. Leona then noticed that Regan must be too tired to levitate with his magic. So she decided to act quickly and managed to catch the handsome man before she could fall on the ground. Leona then asked Regan if he was harmed anywhere. Regan was left quite shocked by this. He began to speculate that he must seem pretty vulnerable in the eyes of Leona. Thus, he felt a great anger coursing through his veins. The mage quickly placed his foot back on the ground before turning to the swordswoman. The angry Regan demanded to be put down, and as he claimed that he would remember this humiliation, Leona began regretting saving him. Regan was now eager to take his revenge on the magical beasts that had made a fool out of him. Leona affirmed that he would need her help. She declared that since she had the talisman, she would be fighting from up front, while the mage, who had no choice but to comply with her plan, would help her from behind. At that moment, the magical beasts realized that they were in a challenging situation. And just like that, the humans commenced their counterattack. Angel began cheering on Leona. The Avatar was then left shocked as the viewers who were here for romance got bored of the long fight. Angel was then left horrified as one of the constellations launched a vote in order to sink the ship, and just like that, the option that consisted of drowning the ship scored a crushing victory. The will of the constellations had once again descended upon this world as it resurrected the enemy. Seeing this, Leona was left quite baffled, while Regan immediately guessed that their viewers were at work. And just like that, powerful surges of water emerged from the ocean before tearing the ships to pieces. A little later on a certain island, the swordswoman and the mage had been washed ashore. Leona then slowly began to wake up. And so as the swordswoman began to wonder about their whereabouts, a presence was happy to see them waking up. The old one affirmed that he would have carried the knight and the mage if they didn't wake up before he introduced himself as the chief of Galar Island, and claimed that just the other day, their ship was stolen by someone. Our heroes realized that the beasts must have been successfully slain, as the village chief explained that they had contacted the mainland, seeing how many other people had been washed ashore. And so, as the old man asked them if they had any idea about what was going on, Leona decided to reveal the whole truth. After hearing the explanation, the chief was shocked to hear about an outlaw appearing on the ship, and so as the man thanked our heroes for neutralizing the criminals, Leona realized that she couldn't tell him that the enemy in question were magical beasts. The old man then explained that since there was no vessel prepared for Regan and Leona, they would have to spend the night on their island. And so, as the chief revealed that all inn chambers were full of injured people, Regan and Leona began to fear the worst as they were now being forced to share a room, which baffled both of them. Just like that, our heroes found themselves trapped on an island. And while Leona was furious at the constellations for the problems they had caused, the divinities in question failed to see how critical the matter was. She noticed that her partner was out of energy, yet she still desired to rest in a comfy bed. Thus, as she began to plan on fighting him for the right to sleep on the bed, Regan immediately realized what was on her mind. The mage found it only natural to let his savior have the room while being determined to never be this helpless ever again. Regan was then caught off guard by the swordswoman asking about his swimming ability. Hearing this, Regan decided to confront Leona on this ridiculous idea, only for her to claim that the man was free to stay on the island. And so, as the mage realized that the swordswoman was very much serious, she claimed that remaining here would be a bad move for both of them. Only then did Regan realize that the viewers were firmly against the idea. And before he could even realize what was happening, Leona jumped into the water, claiming that he was free to wait here until a boat arrived. Seeing this, the mage urged her to let him cast a spell that would preserve her body temperature in the water. And just like that, to the viewers' bafflement and amusement, two idiots began to swim their way back to the shore. Thus, as the debates in the comment concluded that this little swim wouldn't strengthen the bond of our heroes, Angel deeply apologized for the inconvenience. Later on that night, the mage and the swordswoman who swam through the ocean were both extremely exhausted. Leona didn't expect her partner to follow her into the water. This made her finally realize how muscular the mage truly is. The lady was then left embarrassed as Regan urged her to stop staring at him. The annoyed Leona proposed resting before heading out. She then asked Angel if she would tag along, and this one confirmed. The swordswoman then decided to ask about the item in Angel's hand. Angel revealed that this small sphere that she found in the sea was what a magical beast turns into after being defeated. Seeing how anxious the little one seemed, Leona decided to ask her about what was on her mind. And so the Avatar expressed deep gratitude towards our heroes who defeated the monsters, while the swordswoman claimed that this wasn't a challenge for either of them. Angel began to wonder if Regan and Leona's future child would turn out like them before heading out to recover her strength for the sake of her mission. At that moment, a small bottle appeared in front of Leona. Upon seeing the purest kind of holy water in her hand, the swordswoman realized that this was Angel's way of apologizing, which explains her embarrassment. Angel was deeply sorry to have failed both of our heroes. With that, as the morning of the next day finally dawned, Leona, who had just woken up, began to think about taking a walk, seeing how pleasant the weather seemed. Only then did someone approach her. Seeing this, someone greatly pissed off Leona. A blonde man expressed how happy he was to see her and how glad he was to have waited at the right place. At that moment, the swordswoman was reminded that this man was the new recruit of the branch. Thus, she demanded to know what the blonde one sought, and since he had a hard time expressing himself, Leona decided to make her leave, making this one claim that he had missed her. Leona affirmed to the blonde one that those words were inciting her wrath. He tells her that, given she's a woman, shouldn't she be more polite? Thus, Leona apologized for her rude slip of the tongue, as she was in the presence of the first prince, Isaiah Windsor. Isaiah immediately apologized for his mistake, wondering if she was still mad at him. He then asked Leona if she was acting this way due to the fact that he was a prince. So Leona decided to remind him of the reason she was angry at him once again. She revealed that it was a shock for her to discover that her friend, who was a commoner, was in fact the crowned prince before claiming that she couldn't care less about his status, as he tried to explain. What really pissed Leona off was Isaiah's grandmother, the Empress, who only saw her as a child-bearing machine and who was also glad to see her a virgin despite being a swordswoman. Leona regretted only breaking one window that day instead of doing so much more. The prince claimed that he only wishes to be with her. Leona couldn't take it any longer as she urged Isaiah to stop acting like they were a couple. And before the blonde one could even explain what he meant, the annoyed reedhead returned inside and closed the door behind her. And so, just as Leona was about to complain about her problems to herself, she was startled upon seeing Regan in front of her. And so, as she accused him of spying on her conversation, Regan decided to tease her, saying that she was having a loud fight with her boyfriend in front of the entrance during the day, so it's not like he was spying on her or anything. The annoyed Leona decided to walk away. She then froze in place as the mage asked about the nature of her relationship with the prince. Leona was left irritated and affirmed to her partner that there was no relation to begin with, before urging him to leave her alone. Regan asked Leona to heed his words as he claimed that the prince was dangerous. These words greatly intrigued Leona, despite how she treats him. Isaiah was a shy soul who always needed her protection and was reputed for being respectful. Leona was even more confused as the mage claimed that the mage was putting on a facade in front of her. Confusion turned into shock as Regan claimed that she was playing in the palm of Isaiah's hand, as he and his father were grand schemers. Leona assumed that the one who referred to the emperor as the father of Isaiah wasn't right in the head, only for Regan to affirm that the prince was the real madman who was ready to sacrifice everything for his own desires. Leona clarified that Regan was the crazier of the two and urged him to stay out of her private affairs. With that being said, she angrily stormed out of the room. This greatly annoyed Regan as despite his best efforts to warn Leona, she refuses to see that she is walking into a trap. Even then, an ill feeling filled the mind of the mage after seeing Leona with the crown prince. Later that day at the headquarters, Leona was excited to learn that there was a freshman welcome party, only for the girl next to her to affirm that it was more brutal than it sounds. According to her, the party would be the equivalent of seniors giving their juniors hellish tasks in order to torture them. This wasn't the only purpose, as this party would allow the seniors to select a partner among the juniors. Leona began to realize how odd it was for her to be paired up with another junior. The girl then revealed that the officers in this branch tend to be oddballs, and the freshmen this year were particularly weird. Leona thanked the girl for the explanation while thinking that it was only natural to have weirdos among this branch that was filled with prodigies. Aside from her, the prince, and the mage, there were also 2 other new recruits that Leona would meet at the freshman welcome party. Leona was certain that she could handle the party just fine, determined to put anyone who dared to look down on her in his place. The day of the party had finally arrived, and all were invited to the main auditorium. Leona was shocked by how colossal the auditorium seemed. Seeing how there was still some time before the beginning of the festivities, Leona decided to analyze the skills of her fellow officers. Only then did she spot a huge back nearby. Upon seeing this figure, Leona thought that she had found a professional wrestler and assumed him to be an ideal challenge for herself. She tried to approach the man, only for him to escape her finger at the last moment. Seeing how he was avoiding getting touched, she assumed that he must be looking down on her. Thus, she claimed that she would leave him alone. Yet little did this one know this was a trap. Leona quickly dashed forward, and just like that she appeared in front of the muscular man. Upon seeing a lady in front of him, the man did the only logical thing and ran the other way. Angel urged Regan to do something about this person before he becomes a new love interest for Leona. Regan assumed that this man must be the Angel's type, only for her to deny it despite being in admiration of his muscles. As the mage claimed that he couldn't care less, Angel found it pitiful that he failed to grasp the beauty of muscles. And before Regan could even talk Angel out of it, she decided to make the wrong move and called in the viewers. And just like that, silly comments about the auditorium being filled with handsome people and admiration expressions for the muscle man with tails and ears began to rain down on the mage. As Angel urged the constellations to focus and help her force Leona and Regan together, this one noticed something intriguing. The mage began to wonder about how skilled the beastman truly is, seeing how he managed to enter this branch despite his race. Angel urged Regan to gather intel on his new love rival, only for him to claim that it would be pointless. But upon seeing the comments threatening to give him cat ears, the mage quickly changed his opinion, and so as Leona kept on chasing the beastman, who was certain that no female would be present, Regan urged her to stop. The swordswoman claimed that she was only trying to be friendly, as Regan clarified that she was assaulting their peer. With that, Leona was left quite irritated that she was the only person Regan didn't show kindness to. The comments then forced him to talk with the beast by threatening to give him cat ears, which he would greatly dislike. So Regan went to check on the beastman. Suddenly, this one grabbed him by the hand. The beastman that introduced himself as Syrian deeply thanked the mage for saving him from the female. What happened next shocked Angel, as the viewers weren't against Syrian becoming a love interest for Regan. And so, the Avatar's plan went sideways again. Leona claimed that the viewers were too open-minded. At that moment, someone apologized for being late and congratulated all the 150th class recruits. This was none other than Nathan, the top of the 148th class. Nathan then asked the rookies to memorize the faces of all who are present here as they are their new comrades in arms, while Leona began to think of how weirdly Syrian was staring at her and Regan. The beastman was eyeing them while having something on his mind. One of the comments claimed that everyone in the auditorium was handsome, and as another expressed admiration towards the prince, Leona began to think of how odd Isaiah seemed and was then shocked by seeing the one next to him appear out of nowhere. Nathan then explained to the freshmen that in this party, the seniors would be selecting a partner for themselves from among them. He then gave a dark look to Regan while urging those who have already been paired up together to be very wary while on the mission. The mage felt uneasy as Nathan seemed to be wishing for someone to get hurt based on his speech. With that being said, Nathan asked the juniors to follow him. All were left intrigued as Nathan affirmed that things would get serious from here on. Later on, while in nature, Nathan revealed the gate they had prepared for the freshmen. And as Regan claimed that a dungeon raid might be a lot for a welcome party, Nathan assured him that everything had been taken care of. And so, as many drones appeared, Nathan explained that they would be surveilling and observing their every move while inside. He then explained that in order for one to surrender, they just have to wave this white flag. On it, the message treated the user as a coward. Leona's attention was then suddenly captivated as her senior claimed that the one who would defeat the boss would be labeled as the leader of their promotion. And so she decided to ask about the advantages of this position. Leona grew excited upon learning that the leader gets many advantages, like priority for taking vacations, choosing missions, and more. They even get to boss around the others in their cohort for an entire month. Seeing how she couldn't afford to be ordered around by Regan and the rest of the oddballs, she was now determined to get her hands on the position of leader. However, as the comments began to complain that this supposedly romantic adventure was overly filled with action, Leona was left intrigued. Leona knew that it was only natural for their days to be filled with action scenes, given that they were soldiers, yet the comments affirmed that they were here for the thrill that romance gives them, and not action scenes, before deciding to resort to a specific method. Leona and Regan began to fear the worst as the viewers mentioned some kind of roulette. Only then did a roulette filled with ridiculous and ominous options appear in front of them. Our heroes began to fear the worst upon seeing the nonsense that the viewers wanted to put them through, especially the one called pheromones. Leona and Regan agreed on one point. Seeing how all of these options were too ridiculous to be shown in public, Leona grabbed Regan and dashed into the dungeon. Yet little did they know the will of the viewers was already in motion. Once inside the dungeon, Regan urged Leona to let go of his hand. She explained that this was the only way for them not to get separated. and as she began to think of how he should know those things after dungeon training, the mage revealed how relieved he was to see that he didn't have cat ears growing. Our heroes quickly realized that 4 of the other roulette options were also absent from the scenario. Regan urged the girl to stay vigilant, as there was no way their viewers had spared them. Leona decided to put this matter aside and suggested going to take care of the boss. Regan was particularly intrigued by the scent of roses that filled this dungeon and began to think that this was due to the power of a monster. Meanwhile, the seniors watched everything from outside the dungeon. Nathan was irritated by the fact that the boss monster was nowhere to be seen. His peer reassured him that the freshmen were mature enough to locate the boundary stone to escape, and that this was a C-rank dungeon with a B-rank boss. Nathan was particularly annoyed by the fact that Leona had chosen to go with Regan despite having prepared everything for her. Thus, he ordered more drones to be deployed. At the same time, inside the dungeon, as the mage and the swordswoman were back to back, Leona warned Regan of incoming danger. At first, the man tried to defend himself, yet Leona reacted faster and saved him from the incoming attack. She then pointed out how the bats seemed too big for C-rank monsters as she checked on Regan, who asked to be left alone. Leona realized that Regan doesn't seem at the peak of his form. Concerned, Leona claimed that they needed to rest for a while. Only then did she notice a forest smell. Regan and Leona were surprised to see that they were both smelling odd scents. Leona revealed that her nose was detecting the fruity scent of nature, while Regan revealed that his nostrils were filled with a flower scent that was driving him mad. Only then were both of them horrified, as this might be the power of the viewers at hand. Suddenly, a creature revealed herself to our heroes. A winged woman had finally come in contact with the young people that her master mentioned. Leona was then intrigued by the baffled reaction of Angel upon laying eyes on the vampire with her demonic aura. And so, as the Avatar pointed out that their race should have been driven to extinction, the vampire was surprised to see that a fraction of the goddess was still awake. Vampires were evil charmers who could change their appearance and even command beasts, yet all of them belonged to a single clan. Seeing how much demonic energy was reeking from the vampire, Angel quickly realized that this one was now a servant of the Demon King. Thus, she warned Leona and Regan about this opponent being on top of the pecking order of the vampire clan, a vampire queen. The vampire queen, who began demonstrating her power, pointed out that she had no interest in the Avatar and that her priority was to capture our heroes. She even claimed Regan to be her type. The vampire queen was shocked to see Regan and Leona relieved that the scents were an effect of her power and not the nonsense of the viewers. She watched in shock as they began to talk about taking her down like it was some sort of side quest. This greatly angered the vampire queen. Thus, she decided to unleash her power while claiming that no man can resist her might. And just like that, she unleashed her seducing scents in order to attract Regan and use him as bait for Leona. But just as she began to think that the heroes would be weak against her attack, Regan began to react oddly. The vampire queen was shocked to see that the swordswoman and the mage were repulsed by her magic scent. Just like that, a quick battle occurred. Leona asked her new hostage if she was truly directing them toward the boundary stone. For one to get out of a dungeon, they either had to destroy it by slaying its boss or just destroy the boundary stone to create a temporary gate. Leona, who was feeling odd, was fully aware that Regan was the one who was having the hardest time. So she asked the vampire queen once more if this was an effect of her power, only for this one to deny it. As Regan was having a hard time with the scent that remained even after taking down the vampire queen, and seeing how the Avatar also seemed clueless about this situation, Leona was left infuriated upon realizing that this was due to the power of the constellations, who regretted not landing on a stronger option. And so, despite her burning desire to overcome this dungeon, Leona realized that their only option was to quit this dungeon as fast as possible. Later on, while roaming the dungeon, Leona was intrigued by Regan, who began praying to Sylphian for strength. As Leona tried to check on him, the frustrated man quickly brushed off her hand. And so, as the swordswoman affirmed that she was just concerned for her partner, this one was invaded with a sudden urge to start eating her neck, and as his thoughts were starting to get dirtier, the mage quickly punched himself in order to cling to sanity. Regan was annoyed by the temptation that he must endure and irritated by the fact that Leona didn't seem to notice his pain. Leona claimed that the boundary stone should be close. Only then was she alerted by the presence of a monstrous aura. The swordswoman quickly reacted in order to get the mage out of the snake's trajectory. And just like that, Regan was slammed into the ground. As he realized that the lady was on top of him, the face of the mage became as red as a tomato. The vampire queen felt delighted while our heroes began to bicker among themselves. Leona was immediately confused as her hostage revealed how glad she was to see the master arrive to rescue her. The man started grinning. The head of his clan, the Vampire King, expressed regret for the vampire queen's impolite behavior since he had explicitly asked her to escort them in a courteous manner. He then proceeded to free his subordinate as he expressed disappointment to see her become a hostage. Angel confronted the Vampire King about him joining the demons after seeing the monstrous aura that he was reeking of. The Vampire King expressed his surprise at seeing that the entity flying around the heroes was an avatar of the goddess, who demanded an answer. Yet he claimed that this question would answer itself in time and that he needed to make his leave at once. He then decided to leave them in the capable tale of the jealous magical beast Naga, who seemed rather agitated. The Vampire King revealed that Regan was reeking of this emotion despite not realizing it. And with that being said, the Vampire King decided to make his leave. Just like that, our heroes were now face to face with Naga. Leona quickly realized that their chances of winning were close to zero due to the condition of the mage. Thus, she tasked Regan with creating an escape route by breaking the boundary sword while she kept the snake occupied. And with that being said, she charged headfirst and clashed with Naga. Upon seeing this, one of the viewers was amazed to see Leona defend the weaker link, while another wanted to increase the pheromones in order to get to the spicy part. Regan was baffled by how quickly the lady took things in hand and was now determined to make himself useful. Later on, the exit was finally opened. Our heroes barely managed to flee from the dungeon alive. Upon seeing Leona lying on the ground, Nathan rushed to check on her. He was then shocked to see how bad her state seemed. Nathan was left angry and demanded an explanation from the girl's partner. Yet to his shock, Regan was also in a horrible state as he tried his best to explain the situation. After hearing what happened, Nathan was shocked to hear that the Vampire King was present inside the dungeon. He was horrified to learn that a powerful clan from ancient times had resurfaced and had launched an attack on his comrades. Yet he realized that keeping the rookies safe was his priority, so he ordered Regan and Leona to be escorted to the temple and to demand the return of the 3 rookies inside the dungeon. He then reassured Leona that she would get help soon enough, only for her to state that she can handle the pain just fine. Nathan couldn't help but chuckle, as he expected no less from his junior. And just like that, he ordered the others to transport the 2 injured to the temple. Once at the temple, Regan and Leona were shocked to learn that holy power couldn't help them overcome their condition. The priest explained that despite having neutralized the evil power, they couldn't stop their frustration, as they were unable to identify its cause. They declared that this room should help with their condition and decided to place Leona in a protective bubble until the high priest arrives. Yet Regan didn't get such gentle treatment. As he was handcuffed to the bed, he demanded an explanation. The priest declared that this was a measure of precaution in case Regan found himself unable to restrain his urges. And just like that, the mage and the swordswoman were urged not to jump at each other until the arrival of the high priest. A little later, the viewers began to comment on how hot it was to see Regan in handcuffs and how weak he seemed to the pheromones they loved so much. And so, as Leona was intrigued by those events, Regan asked the constellation about the nature of these pheromones. From what he had heard, Regan understood that these pheromones were some kind of powerful perfumes meant to attract a mate. The comments begged him to stop analyzing the substance seriously. After learning that these scents are meant to help increase the population, Leona asked the viewers if males are also able to carry babies. And as soon as they confirmed, she excitedly claimed that Regan could become pregnant with their child instead of her, leaving him in shock. Thus, Leona began to approach the mage while stating that his profession would be more suitable for carrying a child. Regan began to scream in horror as Leona offered to relieve him from his torment. In the end, the swordswoman was unable to hold her laughter any longer. She began to mock the mage for actually thinking that she would take advantage of him in this state. Leona then claimed that she might have found a solution to their problem, as the mage urged her to stay away. What Regan saw next was horrifying. He demanded to know what Leona had in mind, so she explained how pheromones could only affect someone who smells them. But seeing how the mage failed to understand why she was ready to throw a punch, she clarified that the problem would disappear if Regan lost his nose. After letting the madness of the redhead finally sink in, the mage was horrified and begged to be left alone. As Leona proved herself to be a crazy woman once again, he refused to let her take his life with her brutal strength after his long journey. Thus, he decided to play his final ace. Just like that, a chain appeared on the wrist of Leona. The swordswoman found herself shackled by magic. Regan then resorted to his powers in order to free himself, and with that, was able to flip the table in an instant. Leona seemed irresistible in his eyes as she complained about him breaking his barrier and overreacting to a joke. This exact situation was the very reason Regan wanted to remain tied up to a bed. With that, the viewers were excited by this unexpected twist and encouraged Regan to make his move. At that moment, the mage realized that he was the one to always get the worst out of this journey. He was annoyed by the fact that he ended up swimming in ocean after being the only one to get frustrated when they held hands, and was irritated by this hypnotizing scent. Suddenly, Regan gently grabbed her chin. He gave her a confident smile as she didn't expect this, and despite the urges eating him from inside, Regan simply demanded that Leona ask for his forgiveness. He then stated that he would forget everything as he was no bad guy. He then decided to call her out on losing her boldness after being tied up. At first, it seemed like Leona had something to say, yet a few seconds later she sneezed in the face of Regan. The swordswoman, who didn't hear a word the mage had said, apologized for letting the sneeze out despite her best efforts. The comments were shocked to see that the dense female lead wasn't stunned by Regan and was just trying not to sneeze, as this one began to think of how she didn't want to get sick. At that moment, Leona announced to Regan that she had gotten a genius idea, only for this one to fear the worst, as he knew that no sane thought crosses the mind of this woman. To his shock, Leona asked him about how long he could use his powers to sustain the low temperature. Regan claimed that in this state he could potentially keep the room cold for half an hour. With that, Leona proudly clarified that if Regan gets sick, his nostrils would naturally be blocked, meaning that he won't be able to pick up the scent. After hearing this, even the trouble-making viewers began to pity Regan for what he has to endure. And just as Regan ordered the constellation to stop looking down on him, Nathaniel stormed into the room in order to help our heroes. But upon seeing the situation they were in, the mind of the high priest began to wander into dark ideas. Nathaniel was left traumatized by the sinful looks and unleashed his holy judgment upon Regan. Later on, after Regan almost got fried up by lightning, the high priest deeply apologized for the misunderstanding. Yet Regan couldn't exactly blame him. The mage knew very well that he wasn't fully conscious at the time. At that moment, the comments began to mock him for what he said in this spicy situation. Nathaniel offered another checkup to Regan, only for this one to decline while being thankful that the pheromone effects finally ended. Leona apologized to Nathaniel for causing him so much trouble. Yet the high priest clarified that the swordswoman had the hardest responsibilities between the two of them. And so, as he heard his partner laugh with the handsome priest, Regan suddenly felt annoyed. With that being said, the mage claimed that they should make their leave as Nathaniel proposed to have the carriage ready for them. Leona then began to feel as if she had forgotten something. She then realized that Angel had gone missing after their encounter with the Vampire King. So the swordswoman decided to ask the viewers about her whereabouts. The constellations explained that Angel went to investigate the alliance between the vampires and the demons, and that with her absence, they would not be able to watch over their lives until her return. And so, as Leona began to think that their routine would be freed of random chaos for a while, Regan ordered her to hurry up. Leona was happy that tomorrow was Saturday, meaning that she wouldn't have to lay eyes on the irritating Regan. Yet little did she know she was to spend the entire Saturday with the annoying man. That night, at the residence of Count Everhart, Leona rushed to hug her grandmother. The old lady welcomed her grandchild with open arms. The first female count of the empire, Avenin Everhart, asked Leona about her first day as a knight. Seeing how the young one seemed to have a lot to complain about, Avenin stated that she could tell them everything after Isolde wakes up. This made Leona ask her grandmother for the reason she was up before dawn. Avenin smiled. She excitedly explained that she had been looking forward to the new episode of her drama so much that she was unable to shut her eyes. Leona quickly recognized this drama as that one popular opera show that is recorded on orbs and distributed to the watchers. Only then did the bell ring. The mailman arrived with a smile, as he was here to deliver the new episode to the Count. Leona asked to watch the episode with her grandma, and her grandma immediately agreed. Avenin then began to summarize the entire plot of the series until this point to her grandchild. And as Avenin arrived at the point where there were 3 potential fathers to the child of the female lead, Leona felt intrigued by what people watched in order to entertain themselves. Yet watching this messy love life on the orb made Leona realize that the constellation must consider her life like some sort of similar drama, and that one of the actors was acting like Regan. Only to be left in shock as she realized that this character was even worse than her partner, as he would never lay his hand on a woman. Avenin reminded her grandchild that this was but a show meant for her and urged her not to entangle herself in such a messy love story. At that moment, a third redhead arrived at the scene while claiming that all men were alike. This was none other than Leona's mother, Isolde Leonhardt, who was the first divorced woman in the Empire and its first lady magistrate. Isolde asked her mother if her ex-husband was in the cast of this drama, only for Avenin to claim that the scumbag wasn't. Leona knew that the story of her parents and grandparents was even more chaotic than the one on the orb. Isolde, who was the first female magistrate, also became the first divorced woman after discovering the affairs of her partner, and Avenin became the first female count by remaining loyal to her late husband and chasing all the greedy side branches of the family away. From what Leona had heard, her father was a despicable actor who was known to flirt with every maiden he met. Leona then began to blame herself for the misery of her mother, who wouldn't have married the actor if she hadn't carried his child in her belly. Her mother and grandmother quickly noticed what she was thinking about and claimed that everything that happened to Isolde was her own fault. They even affirmed to the girl that they considered her a heavenly gift. This made Leona wonder if she would think the same about her own child. She also realized that if things are kept as they are, she would never become a parent. Yet, as she was unable to see herself in the shoes of a mother, she decided to brush it off and enjoy the show with her family. As the next day arrived, Leona was happy to see that the market seemed to be as happy as ever. She decided to finish her shopping spree as quickly as possible, considering they were expecting an important guest this afternoon. Leona then quickly entered the shop. She was then welcomed by one of her acquaintances, Percival, who was a clerk at the Sacred Land blacksmith shop. As Leona greeted Percival, Percival assumed that Leona was here for a blade cleaning. But upon hearing her claim that she was here to buy a new weapon, Percival immediately assumed that Leona had saved up a few coins. Leona explained that it wasn't exactly the case, as she had gotten a huge sum recently while recalling when she saved Regan from the bullet. Leona still hadn't forgotten how the rich boy had promised to buy her any item of her choosing as a token of his gratitude. And with that being said, Leona excitedly urged Percival to pull out the SS rank throwing dagger set. Leona then began to wander around the shop while waiting for Percival to return, and so, as she began to wonder if she should take another item on top of the daggers, seeing how it was Regan who was paying, she suddenly bumped into someone. Shireen was shocked to see the predator from before, while Leona was surprised to bump into the beastman who was scared of her. Someone then urged Shirian to apologize to the lady for being so rude, and as the beastman immediately obeyed, Leona quickly realized that the other guy had remained silent until now in order to stay unnoticed. The fifth freshman of the Central Branch apologized for not approaching the lady sooner, as he introduced himself as Dex Tristan. The confused Leona introduced herself to him as well. And so, as Dex claimed that they should try to get along as colleagues, Leona began to think that he was trying to start a fight, seeing how hard his handshake was. The beastman felt startled all of a sudden, and as Dex praised him for introducing himself as Shirian Wolf, our heroine was left quite intrigued. When asked if they knew each other before becoming a part of the second branch, Dex explained that they had met and bonded just recently in the dungeon. They then asked Leona if she was fine as they had heard of her misadventures, only for this one to claim that she was all right. Dex then revealed himself to be a necromancer and explained that he was here to help Shirian choose a new weapon. He then stated that the beastman had forgotten his weapon, as they had to leave in a hurry, while this one claimed that the necromancer was kind enough to openly share his food and money. Leona felt that something wasn't adding up, seeing how Dex just took a peek at the collars as Percival returned with the item. Leona was overjoyed by how shiny her new toy seemed. Dex then saw an opportunity as Percival asked Leona about the payment method she would like to choose. Hearing this, the necromancer claimed that destiny have crossed their paths and offered to buy Leona the item in order to showcase his goodwill. But as Leona requested the dagger to be put on the tab of the Grand Duchy of Crawford, the entire shop went silent. And so, as he asked Leona if she was the girlfriend of Regan, she was particularly angered by the assumption that he had just made. Shortly after, Dex apologized to Leona for assuming that she was dating Regan, as she claimed that no harm was done. And so, the necromancer offered to treat her to lunch in order to make up for his conclusion and show appreciation for helping Shirian choose his new weapon. And so, as the swordswoman and the beastman happily requested meat, the necromancer was left amused by their simple minds. At that moment, Leona noticed the gossip on the street. She began to wonder if His Majesty, who was to inspect the area this afternoon, was about to arrive. And as she claimed that there was a shortcut, she was suddenly approached by crying sounds. She then turned around to check the sound. Suddenly, a little child jumped into the arms of the swordswoman after mistaking her for his mother. As she looked at the child, Leona was left shocked as he looked exactly like her partner. Dex was left baffled after seeing this. He then asked Leona if she truly wasn't in a relationship with Regan, as she yelled to deny the allegation once more, making the child cry. After things finally calmed down, Leona tried to reassure the little Regan while wondering if Angel had anything to do with it. Dex and Shirian assumed that the child who looked like Regan was hers. Leona was enraged as she had to affirm for a third time that she wasn't with Regan. At that moment, the little one lets out a cute smile. Leona quickly fell under his charm while being unable to believe that this cute baby would grow into the arrogant Regan. She then decided to stay focused on the problem as she was clearly getting distracted. Thus, she asked the child to firmly hold on. And just like that, Leona dashed through the crowd while claiming that she needed to go to the Holy See. As she ran, Leona began to think that Angel and the viewers must be behind the babification of her partner. She then turned around and was shocked to see the beastman and the necromancer following her while claiming that she might need their assistance. The necromancer was also certain that he could use this to his advantage in the future. Dex claimed that he was now certain that Leona was dating Regan after seeing the child in her hands after she sent a bill to Regan. So she angrily claimed that this child might be simply related to him. The necromancer stated that this wasn't likely, as the Crawford family keeps their number of successors to a minimum, which is why Regan and the Grand Duke were the only representatives of the family. There was no way for Leona to know this, as she avoided social gatherings. This made her realize that she barely knew anything about her partner. Only then was Leona stopped by a crowd cheering for the Emperor. She was particularly annoyed that the Emperor happened to be passing by for his inspection at her time of need. And so, as she asked the child to hold on firmly, Dex asked her how she would get past the crowd. Leona revealed that she plans on going onto the rooftops. Thus, she jumped with all of her might before landing on top of a house. At that moment, two men in the crowd noticed a necromancer, a beastman, and a lady holding a child on the rooftops. One of them quickly recognized the woman as a past #1 student of the swordsmanship department, as he had interviewed her once. Following that, the other two were recognized as Dex Tristan, the youngest son of Marquis Tristan, and Shirian, the next head of the Wolf tribe, who were Leona's colleagues in the branch. The two men began to think of how the silver-haired child resembled the members of the Crawford family, while a third one revealed that the four of them were going to the Holy See. It didn't take long for the journalists to begin to connect the obvious dots together, and with that, they rushed to contact the desk, thinking that they had gotten the scoop of the century. Sometime later, noise began to surround the residence of Count Everhart. The mother of Leona, who had just woken up, demanded to know the reason behind this early commotion. And so as she asked for an explanation, the butler revealed that a swarm of journalists was at their gates. Hearing this shocked us all, as she had a history with reporters because of Leona's father. To her bafflement, it was revealed that the newspaper had reported the secret relationship between her daughter and Nathaniel, the high priest. And so after hearing this, Isolde was relieved, claiming that there was nothing to be worried about. Isolde knew that her daughter was openly the type of girl who couldn't care less about dating men, much less Nathaniel. At that moment, the Count arrived to check the commotion. Avenant began to laugh upon learning about the newspaper, starting a rumor about her granddaughter dating the high priest. And as she wished for the rumors to be true, seeing what a wonderful husband Nathaniel would make, the butler decided to hand them the paper. And with that being said, mother and grandmother decided to read the article about Leona. They were shocked to see that Leona wasn't facing a simple dating rumor. As the paper having a secret illegitimate child with the high priest, Avenant and Isolde were both horrified by this unbelievable nonsense. And a little later that day, Nathaniel stood in front of his superior. His superior claimed that the goddess would be greatly entertained by the rumors about him in the papers, and Nathaniel apologized. The man was aware of Leona rushing to the temple yesterday, as she claimed that the child with her was Regan, and had then demanded that Nathaniel contact the Avatar. But seeing how the angel didn't answer his prayers, Nathaniel asked Leona to wait in the guest room while his superior claimed that a child with the divine powers of Nathaniel would be a blessing. The high priest urged the man to stop these jokes as they were offensive towards Leona. The man urged the high priest to be less serious and pointed out that the child truly resembled Regan, just as Leona mentioned. Yet he realized that there was one crucial difference between this child and the young Regan that he had once met. Back then, as the priest tried to give his blessing to the young child, he was shocked by his impeccable vocabulary as well as the glacial gaze in his eyes. With that, the man claimed that he would try to clear the misunderstanding in front of the press and contact House Everhart as well as Crawford, while Nathaniel decided to report the situation to Leona. As he closed the door, the high priest began to think of this incident. The high priest began to think that the existence of a child that matches his holy power, which could help everyone, would truly be intriguing. At the same time, in the guest room, the hungry child desperately tried to wake Leona up. He tried his best, yet the sleepyhead refused to wake up. A chill ran down the child's spine as a loud banging occurred. The loud sound at the door managed to wake up the swordswoman, so she rushed to open the door, thinking that it must be someone from the temple, yet she wondered why they were banging so aggressively. As soon as she opened the door, the mage demanded an explanation of the scandal in the papers, which left her intrigued. Confusion then turned into utter shock. Regan was caught off guard as Leona grabbed him by the face. The mage was particularly shocked as Leona asked him if he was the true Regan. And so, she heard the voice of the child from behind her. After realizing that baby Regan and adult Regan were two different people, she began to wonder about whose child she took with her. Later on, Leona explained to Regan how she thought that he was a victim of the constellations that turned him into a child, seeing how the baby looked like him. Yet the mage affirmed that he and the dumb child had nothing in common. Leona urged him not to speak as such in front of the baby. And so, the two of them began to fight once again as Regan confirmed that the boy looked deprived of intelligence. And just like that, the little one began to cry. Leona tried her best to calm him down, but the little one wouldn't stop crying. Seeing this, Regan decided to hit him with a sleep enchantment. Leona strictly forbade him from using a spell that he uses to neutralize enemies against a child, yet Regan failed to grasp the danger. He revealed that this was something very common during his childhood. This shocked Leona. The mage revealed that his father would often hit him with this spell as soon as he started to cause trouble. And thus, as Leona tried to process this cruelty, Regan explained that he had been hit with the sleeping spell numerous times and promised not to hurt the child while casting it. The swordswoman affirmed that this would be criminal. She claimed that children needed to cry in order to grow up healthy and that Regan's father was cruel towards him. This shook the mage to his core. This made the mage wonder if this one person had taken the same stance as Leona in this situation. Regan was also shocked by how much of a good caretaker his clumsy partner turned out to be. Only then did he notice that the child was looking at him in an odd way. Only then did Nathaniel knock on the door while stating that he wanted to inform Leona about the official statement of the temple. Regan rushed to open the door to the high priest. At that moment, Nathaniel realized that the mage as well as his baby self were present in the room at the same time. The embarrassed Leona decided to explain the situation to the high priest, whom she had told that Regan had been turned into a child. After a short while, as Nathaniel went to explain the situation to the press while urging them to stay with the child, Leona claimed that they won't make any progress as long as Angel is absent. Regan then finally took a good look at the child and confirmed that the two of them were almost identical. He only realized it as he was left in total shock after reading the article, and even wondered if this child was in fact his secret younger brother without thinking about Nathaniel. As Regan theorized that this might be a result of a breach in time, Leona claimed that they were already certain that this child wasn't his past self. The mage blushed as he claimed that he might be their son from the future. Yet to his shock, Leona threw up in her mouth. And so, they both began to argue about how much of a bad couple they would be together. At that moment, Angel stormed into the room. Our heroes were shocked by the sudden arrival of the Avatar. The crying Angel declared that she had caused a huge mess. Leona asked the Angel about the nature of her mess. The Avatar revealed that she decided to look into the past while trying to gather intel on the alliance between demons and vampires. Angel only wanted to observe the past events. Regan was baffled by the mess she had made, as it ended up perturbing the delicate flow of time. and as the clumsy little creature began to cry as usual, Leona stated that she needed to calm down so that they could find a solution. The swordswoman then asked the avatar if the child she was holding was baby Regan, who landed in the present due to her mistake. But as she claimed that it might be the case, Regan affirmed that he wasn't this dumb, as he was already practicing magic at this age. Leona had a hard time fully understanding the situation as the mage explained that his younger self was affected by his journey through the space-time continuum. Yet she was able to understand that something abnormal had influenced the mind of the child as he crossed eras, and that they just needed to figure out how to send him back to his time. Regan stated that their best move was to resort to their viewers, who were still divine despite being chaotic annoyances. Yet as Angel was being pressed to summon them, she seemed unable to do so. The useless little creature revealed that she would be unable to stream as she had exhausted her power by starting this entire mess. And so as Leona burst out at her in anger, the avatar claimed that it would only take her 2 days to recover her power. Thus Angel tasked our heroes with looking after baby Regan, as any interaction with more people might cause a serious time paradox. She then handed them a ring that had been transported from the past along with the child before finally making her leave. And just like that, our heroes found themselves fixing divine messes once again. After a few hours, the mage and the swordswoman left the temple. Regan stated that they would take the child into their safe house, as taking him to their respective residences would stir up trouble. This made Leona realize how rich one becomes as the successor of a Grand Duke. Shortly after, they arrived at their destination. As soon as Regan activated his spell, a magnificent structure unveiled itself. Leona was shocked to see a fairy tale-like residence appear, as it doesn't really suit the taste of her partner. Regan revealed that this safe house was a present from the Grand Duchess. He then decided to shake the matter off and urged Leona to enter. Once inside, Regan prepared a bed for his past self where Leona immediately placed him. She was concerned by the fact that the child was crying despite having already eaten. The mage was particularly annoyed as Leona asked little Regan if he had sullied his pants. As she claimed that they were practically the same person, Regan firmly insisted that she not refer to him by his name. The swordswoman asked the mage if he had any childhood nicknames that she could use, yet this one claimed that he was only referred to with earl titles. Seeing how he was Anona realized how different her family was from the cold Crawford house, as they used to give her cute nicknames. So she decided to refer to little Regan as Kiddo. With that being said, she handed the child to the mage, claiming that the little one must be bored. Leona claimed that she needed to get some sleep, as she kept the child entertained for an entire day before asking about the guest room. And so after being pointed to it, Leona went to get a well-deserved rest while leaving the child in the hands of the mage. 3 hours had passed since then. Leona woke up from her nap. She was shocked to see that baby Regan had already managed to destroy his own future. The defeated mage urged her to take the child. Leona was impressed by the stamina of the young one. While he referred to her as Mama, despite finding it adorable, she began to wonder why baby Regan was confusing her with the Grand Duchess. Thus, she asked the mage if she resembled his mother, which shook him to the core. Regan then clarified that the two of them were very different, which Leona found plausible, as the Duchess had given this safe house to her son. The swordswoman then asked Regan about his mother, as for some reason, she barely knew anything about the lady. Regan took a deep breath before clarifying that his mother was the polar opposite of his partner. Leona was shocked to see how gloomy the mage had suddenly gotten, so she decided not to press him any further and claimed that the Duchess must have been a gentle and delicate maiden. And so, as she focused on the child once again, Regan revealed that this subspace ring that came with the child must contain an item. Seeing how his partner didn't know about the ring, he explained that it was something passed down from one Crawford successor to the other, and that it could contain items. As it turns out, the ring contained the Book of Cenerentola, which Leona used to read as a child. She was then shocked to see that her partner didn't know about this book, so she explained how it was the story of an ash-covered lady who is missing a shoe and manages to seduce a prince. Leona sat next to adult Regan in order to read the book to him, child counterpart, and so, as Leona started reading the book, boredom immediately installed itself in the mind of the mage. According to the tale, the stepmother of Cenerentola began to mistreat her after the girl lost her father. In her misery, the Queen of the Fairies appeared to lend a helping hand. With her assistance, Cenerentola was able to attend the ball of the prince, yet was required to return home before the clock struck 12. The baby then pointed to a picture of the girl kissing the prince and stated that these were Regan and Leona. At that moment, Leona and Regan, who couldn't stand each other, firmly affirmed to the little child that they would never be together. At that moment, something happened that attracted the attention of the mage. Leona was startled as a giant magic circle appeared. Regan was unable to believe his eyes. The two of them were now witnessing another reaction, and just like that, someone fell from the portal. Leona, who just woke up, is trying to analyze the situation. To her shock, she found herself holding a broom. And just as Leona began to wonder about her whereabouts, someone barged into the room. A blonde old lady referred to Leona as Cenerentola and ordered her to get back to work and stop dozing off. And while Leona was left utterly confused, the woman demanded that she clean the drawing room while she and her daughters were at the ball. Only then did Leona realize that she had slipped into the shoes of Cenerentola in some fairy tale nonsense. This made Leona realize that she had been caught in the magic circle of the child earlier. Leona began to wonder if her partner had been a magical prodigy even in childhood, as well as trying to think of a way to escape this book. Leona then tried to recall the tale of how the heroine, who had been abused by her mother, lost her slipper, which the prince used to track her down and live happily together. The girl was then left utterly disgusted, as the book ended with a kiss with the prince, who must be Regan, seeing how she was Cenerentola. In panic, she broke the broom and claimed that death would be a better option than the kiss. Only then did baby Regan fall from a portal. And so, as Leona asked the child if he was behind this, someone urged him to stop shaking. Leona was then left intrigued as the child revealed a little creature in his hands. Leona was shocked to see the fairy queen in front of her, asking for the reason behind her sadness. The fairy queen explained that she was tasked with preparing Cenerentola for the ball. As the child began to learn new words, the fairy explained to the girl that the only way for her to return to her realm was to complete all the events of the story. Seeing how the end of the story was Leona's way back home, the fairy queen urged her to select a dress. Leona understood that the only way to get through this mess was to play along with it. Thus, she immediately picked up a dress. Leona's choice was rather bold, but since she had to escape at 12 in the morning, it was the one that was most adequate for running. And just like that, the magical dressing up began. The fairy queen explained that Cenerentola needed to mind the clock, as the dress in the carriage would disappear once the time was up. Leona revealed that she was the top runner of the academy and that she won't let the queen of the fairies down. At the same time, at the palace of the emperor, one of the servants affirmed to the royal that he must get prepared for tonight's events. As the servant urged him to hurry up, Regan realized that he was playing the role of the prince. The servants insisted that the prince get ready at once so that he wouldn't disappoint the maidens of the kingdom, who were excited for the ball. Regan realized that the power of the child was the reason behind this mess, and that the only way out was to play his role. He also quickly deduced that since he was assigned the turn of the prince, Leona must be in the slippers of Cenerentola. Thus, he agreed to proceed with the preparation, as he needed to find his partner at once. The servant then claimed that his master should start with a fancy bath filled with mountain water, rosewater, and goat milk, which Regan claimed to be over the top. Later on, while getting dressed, the servant stated that the white attire perfectly goes with the eyes and hair color of his highness. They even claimed that tonight, no lady would be able to resist his charm. Even so, he knew very well that his partner wouldn't even notice his good looks. Regan then also realized that the boyish swordswoman would be forced to wear a dress for the event tonight. He was certain that it wouldn't suit her as he made his way to tonight's event. Meanwhile, the ballroom was filled with guests from every corner of the empire. Regan was annoyed by the fact that Leona was late and began to wonder if the musclehead had gotten lost. Suddenly, the entrance of Cenerentola Don Magnifico was announced. Regan quickly realized that this lady must be his partner. And just like that, Leona arrived at the ball wearing an outfit that was criticized for being too revealing. Such beauty blew the mind of the prince. As Leona approached him, he quickly stood up from his seat. Only then did the lady speak. Leona demanded her slipper back from Regan. At first, he couldn't understand, only to then spot her naked feet. Regan immediately called her out for shamelessly walking with no shoes, yet Leona affirmed that appearances were trivial in stories. She then urged Regan to give her back her slipper so that she could throw it at him before the time was up, yet he failed to understand why he would have it. Leona lets out an exhausted sigh. She then angrily explained that one of the guards had taken her slippers on the way here. 60 minutes before the entrance of Leona, the girl found herself exhausted by the numerous stairs of the castle. Suddenly, her shoe began to break. Seeing how she needed to throw them at the prince, she decided to carry them to the ball. Suddenly, the guard stopped her from entering while armed. Cenerentola explained that she was simply holding her shoe, yet the guard affirmed that such tricks couldn't fool him. As the man claimed the shoes to be crystal weapons that she could get back at the end of the ball, Leona was left baffled. After quickly summarizing what Leona told him, Regan criticized Leona for her choices, which made them fight once again. Only then did a sound captivate her attention. Leona affirmed to the mage that they didn't have much time left, as she needed to throw her shoe at him as fast as possible. As Leona explained that, according to the fairy, the only way out of the story was through it, Regan claimed that he had figured this much out and urged his servant to fetch the lady's shoe. Only then did he notice something intriguing. The crowd was talking about the unusual appearance of Leona. This greatly angered the mage, so he claimed that they needed to go find her slipper at once. For some reason, Regan was unable to tolerate any gossip about Leona. Later on that night, Leona claimed that this guard wasn't the one who took her shoe, so she asked the man about the one who was here before his shift, making him reveal that the guard they were looking for went to the storage room along with the butler. This greatly annoyed our heroes as they decided to head to the storage room at once. Shortly after, Leona came across the guard who took her slipper. This one apologized for the inconvenience, as the lady urged him to return her shoe to her. Leona was left greatly irritated as the guard revealed that the butler had already taken it. Less than 20 minutes remained until midnight. At the ballroom, the servant who was happy to see Cenerentola was left horrified as the imposing lady demanded her shoe back. The butler shocked our heroes by revealing that he had taken the important item to the prince's room. And so, As the clock kept ticking, the mage and the swordswoman rushed towards the shoe, and finally Leona found her slipper of glass. But just as she rushed to grab it, the clock struck 12. The magic had now been undone. Regan was shocked by what he had seen. Leona had now lost her dress. After a quick moment of silence, the girl felt embarrassed. She then threw her slipper at the face of the shocked Regan while calling him a pervert. And just like that, Cenerentola began to run through the night. Regan, who got hit in the forehead, was irritated by the constant source of trouble that was Leona. He then began to think of how he didn't see anything that he shouldn't have as the servant rushed to check on him. The man was startled to see the face of the injured prince, as this one urged him to find the lady he was with. The servant asked the prince if he wished to have the girl arrested, only for him to claim that he didn't. Regan then reminded himself that he was just playing the role of the prince before stating that he wished to be reunited with Cenerentola. And so, the next day dawned. The fairy queen demanded to know about the rumors regarding Leona, who urged her to pay them no mind. Leona, who had given the mage her address to arrive as soon as possible, began to think of how late the mage was. Only then was it announced that the prince wishes to see Cenerentola. Leona quickly opened the door. She then found Regan with her glass shoe in front of her. Regan asked Leona about her weird attire, so this one urged him to end the tale already. After seeing Leona holding the mini Regan, all assumed that the prince held a ball in order to find Cenerentola, who thought that the prince had abandoned her and their child. Leona and Regan were shocked by how fast the plot was moving on its own. A servant urged the prince to kneel. Despite his embarrassment, Regan decided to play along. Leona then accepted her slipper back, making everyone cheer for them. Leona was then shocked to see that nothing was happening, which made Regan wonder if there was still one unfulfilled task. At that moment, the child reminded the adults that they needed to kiss each other. Hearing this, the mage and the swordswoman realized that they must carry out their roles until the very end. Leona was disgusted by the idea of kissing Regan, yet seeing how this was their only way back, she decided to take the initiative. Only then did Regan kiss her hand. The mage claimed that this should suffice as an ending, and just like that, our heroes successfully finished the story.